एक किधर गया?
Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Śaṅkaram Loka Śaṅkaram Śaṅkaram Śaṅkaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Nama Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Vyasa Śaṅkara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. We saw yesterday the Varna division. And Varna division is meant to protect and grow the society. Make all elements of life for the entire society relatively comfortable, but there's a purpose behind that also. All that the Vedic society prescribed was meant to help us along in the journey to gaining that one Purushartha, mokṣā. Language was like that, the culture was like that, the way the society was structured was like that. Unfortunately, over time, it has got all distorted. People have lost a sense of achieving the infinite for various reasons, including outsiders who did not make an effort to understand and only saw that which did not appeal to them. There is no society anywhere which does not have divisions. Incorrect to say there is no division. Even in Indraloka, there is an Indra who is the king. The society was designed to make the best use of the competence of people in different areas. A person may not have competence in certain area, but may have some skill sets in completely different area. The society should structure itself such that their best are used for the benefit of the society. This is something a lot of people don't understand. Society itself is structured. Now you tell me which society does not try and do that? But without a structure, without any background to it, every society automatically tries to do this. This whole Vedic society was designed to do this specifically with a clear idea. This is what we should be doing. The goal being mokṣā. Now, Vedas also understood that not everybody will understand moksha purushartha. Every other purushartha looks like an immediate benefit. Artha, kama look like something I can get now. And dharma in the form of other lokas looks like something I can get in a very short while. Short while meaning after death. What people fail to understand, unlike every other faith, where certain things are promised after death, this is one phala, which every scripture says is available to you now, in this sharira, in this janma. You don't have to wait till after death, after which you have no idea what happens. And therefore, either one has to accept what the faith leader says and believe in that. But this is one where it says it is available to you in this janma, in this sharira. Without understanding of that, the whole society has got them. But in today's context, probably doesn't have too much relevance. Although personally, I believe sooner or later we'll go back to that. Society will go back to that. Every society. Unless we lose the whole thing before that. The other set of division that is made, one we said is Varna division. You have Varna by Guna. One who has competence in using the thinking, analytical capacity should do the kind of work which uses that to the best effect. You don't want to put a cupboard in the army. And it will not happen automatically. That fellow will go away. In fact, you can't in the army put in even a person who wants to question everything. Because the thing requires that you follow orders unquestioningly. So if a person has got that kind of capacity to think and analyze, saying why he is not suited for the army. Except at strategic level. At the foot soldier level, he has no role at all. You cannot put a person in a
Swamiji, sorry, you got unmuted.
Sorry, muted.
I mean, unmuted.
By mistake, Swamiji.
There you are. I got a message saying you muted. What happened? So that kind of division every society will do. All these recruitment they do for the army or for any other function for that matter, they apply some criteria to select. Because they think they'll be more competent after he's passed certain tests. These days they also use psychological tests for everything. ND had always used it anyway. So this was designed with that in mind, so that the society is in a position where every member of the society has the opportunity to work towards moksha. Even if the individual did not understand moksha to begin with, the way the society was structured and the way the karma was defined, what you should do and what you should not do were defined, allowed the individual a path to moksha. What you should do and what you should not do has two types of do's and don'ts. One is called Samanya Dharma. Universally applicable to everyone, irrespective of which division of Varna the person falls in, or which division of Ashrama the person falls in. Some key ones Swami G had listed, I thought it was interesting to see. The primary one that everybody has heard of is ahimsa. Don't do himsa to anybody. One of the primary rules given, ahimsa paramo dharma, universally for everybody, was ahimsa. Be constantly aware, don't consciously create a situation which creates himsa for another jiva. Whether the jiva is a tree or a plant, or the jiva is another animal, or a human being. And this himsa included not just physical himsa, but himsa in every form. Ahimsa became the most critical don't create himsa. In fact, a lot of things follows from there. If we look at the commandments given, all have fallen to ahimsa really. And that understanding that a look or a word or a gesture can also cause himsa was enshrined. Ahimsa was the first of them. The second he insisted is called anritam. Don't get stuck where you say untruth. Really, untruth, why would one say knowingly? Because there's some benefit one sees in it. There's a small difference between asatyam and anritam. Satyam and ritam are two different words used commonly. On the surface, both have the same meaning, but one could interpret them as saying satyam, there is only one satyam. There is no other satyam. Anritam or nritam is that satyam which I think is correct. To my best knowledge, that is right. So even in a court of law, you can make a statement. As best as I recall, that was a green Ford. In a case, an accident case, you are a witness, you can say that. The court will not punish you for perjury. Knowingly telling, I know it to be different, or I think in my knowledge that's different, I say something different. That is anritam. The third negative, not do, it's called asteyam. The Gita says that everything we get from devas, and that whatever we have, we first do nevedyam to Ishvara, and then only eat. And when you don't do that, when you don't give to others before you eat, stena eva saha, If you remember the Gita, it says, he is a stealer, a thief. So asteyam, meaning one who does not steal somebody else's property. Ahimsa, anritam, asteyam. Another word, amithunam. Mithunam is illegitimate relationship with somebody of the other gender. Illegitimate. Is also considered not to be done. And aparigraha. Not taking somebody else's things away. And you have the do's also. And when we read this Sādhana Pañcakaṃ, there will be a lot of these do's coming in there as well. In the Gita also, you know, you've heard all of this. Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjavam, acharyo, pasanam, shaucham. All these are listed positively what one should do. And we look at it at different stages of one's growth and maturity. These will apply far more relevantly. Shaucham, cleanliness, both internal and external cleanliness. That is also part of the Amanitam, Adambitam, Ahimsa, Shantirajam. Shaucham is also one of them. Keep the, you know, these days we talk about a lot of the environmental protection and things like that. All that's actually there in the Vedas. Santoshaha or tripti. While you strive for whatever that you're trying to achieve, what you end up getting, acceptance of that. That also has been said in the Gita. Tapas, discipline, both religious discipline and discipline in one's own life. They're all prescribed as samanya dharma. Swadhyayanam, studying one's own Vedas. Again, these will all come up in the text also. And Ishvara Bhakti. You know, on the positive side, these are all given. These are all given because, like I said, the end purpose is mokṣā. If one does not follow the don'ts, this will cause disturbance within the system. And any disturbance in the system is inimical to that knowledge. And if one does not do the positives, then also it does not make it conducive to learning. Therefore, both these are samanya dharma, universally applicable to everybody. What one should do in the form of varna, depending upon the type of work one does, is already clear. Other is what one does in terms of which ashrama one is in life. What the Shastra does is, it says your life evolution has 4 stages. One starts by being a brahmachari. A state of brahmacharyam, soon after the child gets to a stage of basic understanding of life, we go through a system of brahmacharyam. The word brahmacharyam is often translated in many different ways, but the real meaning in the context of ashrama is being a student. Therefore, the primary focus at that stage in life is studies. Nothing else draws one's attention away. The way it was done at that time was, one studies not only the Veda, but also all the related Upavedas, Upangas, Angas, various other, all sciences were also studied. It is not that they were unaware of what is happening. Only today I saw one very interesting experiment in University of Southern California, Irvine. They had taken an ancient Indian text. I didn't see what text they took it from, which described a flying craft. And this university professor designed that based on what is given in the text and experimented with it to see if it will actually fly. And not surprisingly, it actually did satisfy all conditions of flying. I don't think he made a big model to actually fly it. He probably did in a wind tunnel. So it is not that those people did not know sciences or geography or cosmology. Everything they studied. Unfortunately, we have a very bad image of a young boy with a kudumi, a shikha, knowing only some mumbo jumbo, nothing else. Unfortunate, but completely wrong image. But really speaking, they were very knowledgeable. Today, slightly it is coming back. I know of one case where the boy was so brilliant that Harvard and Stanford were fighting to see who will get him. Two of the biggest, most reputed universities in the US. And in dictated terms. This is a real case. He said, in your kitchen, you cook non-vegetarian. I will not eat there. So they made special arrangements for him to have food of his liking made in a separate kitchen. And come 6 o'clock, he will do Sandhyavandanam. All the, it's true, and he's still there in Stanford. Professors and others knew. So they will say, oh, it's 6 o'clock, there's no point going to talk to him, don't go there. He'll be busy with his prayers. So it is beginning to happen. some respect is coming back to this knowledge. Another very interesting incident. There was one of our Guru Bhais who studied under Swami Saraswati, who started a Gurukulam just there near what is it? Kaladakurchi. And for the initial puja, etc., he and his partner were there. And I saw there were 3 young boys, very smart, but in the traditional clothes, sitting and chanting the Vedas, Rudram, Chamakam, and all the other elements of Vedas. Then later I found out they were the sons of the partner. One of them is studying, doing research in Stanford University. One of them is in Harvard. And the third fellow is studying in IIT. But they knew all this. It is wonderful to see that the world respects this kind of knowledge and also sees that people like him know the Vedas. It's also good to see people coming out of IITs and other big universities making an effort to study the Vedas, understand Vedanta, and look at why that life is so important. This last couple of 100 years, an image has been created with that somebody who studies Veda is useless in society. Not correct. This study, adhyayanam, of one's own Veda, Swadhyayanam, including all the associated studies, is what one is supposed to concentrate during the period of brahmacharya. Not on food, not on politics, not on entertainment industry. Once the person has studied for 12 years in this, he is expected to get into Grihastha Ashrama. When a person is in Grihastha Ashrama, there are different types of karmas prescribed for him. Grihastha Ashrama karma. He is supposed to be the most productive part of the society. The focus is on dharma. The focus is on doing all the prescribed karma. And the focus is on being productive for the society. Then, as the person matures, the next generation begins to come up. He hands over the day-to-day work to the next generation and heads towards Vana. Vana is a forest. Typically in those days, you walked a few kilometers or two, you already came to the forest. In other words, they isolate themselves generally in order to do contemplative work. They still have certain karma prescribed for them, which they have to do. One of the most important karmas they do is to be available to the next generation grihastha, to tell them what is correct and what is not correct, to help them take the right decisions. So they are accessible. That state, that ashrama, also has certain prescribed karma. And in the last of the 4 stages, one takes to sannyasa. In the beginning, as a brahmachari, one studies. Then the focus is on karma. As a grihastha, grihastha has a lot of karma to do. Then as a vanaprastha, the focus is on upasana, meditation, dhyanam, japa. And in the last stage, the focus is on jnanam only. This is the structure. Whether we follow this strictly like this or otherwise, life itself dictates to you this kind of structure. Whether as a sannyasi one wears kavi or not, society will keep you there. And because sannyasa is a state where one focuses entirely on jnanam, and that jnanam is mokṣā, one can take to sannyasa from any stage of life. From a brahmachari, one can take to that. From a grihastha, one can take to that. And of course, from a vanaprastha, you can always take to that. In the current day context, one need not even formally take sannyasa. One can have a sannyasi attitude. One becomes a sthita prajna, unwavering focus on brahmajnanam, paravidya. So even while doing karma, doing upasana, one can continue to give pradhanyam to jnana. This much was clearly specified in the scriptures. This text that we are studying, called Sādhana Pañcakaṃ, tells us at each stage, as a brahmachari, what one is expected to do. As a grihastha, what one is expected to do. There are only 5 verses in this. The first verse talks about a brahmachari and a grihastha. What one is expected to do as a brahmachari. It doesn't specify age, it only specifies level of maturity in the evolution of the individual. Remember, Varnashrama was designed to, Varna itself was designed for the benefit of the society, for the growth of the society. And for the society to be created in such a fashion that every individual has the opportunity to go towards mokṣā. This ashrama division is to help individuals work towards mokṣā. Can moksha happen when one is a brahmachari? Yes. Can moksha happen when one is a grihastha? Yes. Can moksha happen when one is a vanaprasthi? Yes. Or is a sannyasi? Yes. Because this moksha is only jnanam. If a person is prepared, if a person has followed all the karmas, we see Vihida karma and Nisheda karma, one has attained the certain level of inner maturity and has had the ability to contemplative thinking. One sentence, Tattvamasi, is enough. It never happens that way. Tattvamasi only opens the door to the thinking. It requires a lot of effort in terms of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidhyasanam before one gets it. But nothing to prevent one from gaining this knowledge at any stage. That's why I said one can gain the status of a sannyasi from anywhere. From a brahmachari, from a grihastha, from vanaprastha, or as a sannyasi. And as a sannyasi, one can take sannyasa because I have clearly understood that I have to gain this knowledge in order to gain this knowledge, which is moksha. Therefore, nothing else is relevant. Therefore, I want to know. Or vividisha sannyasa. Veditum ichha, wanting to know. A jignasu, a person who says, I know this is to be known, and that's what I want to know. There is this vidya called paravidya, knowledge of aksharam brahma, and that is what I want. What if one takes sannyasa having already gained that knowledge? Like I said, anybody can gain this knowledge at any stage, provided there is sufficient preparation and there is adequate punya behind a person. If such a person takes a sannyasa, he is called a vidvat sannyasi. There's a third category of sannyasi called apat sannyasa. Because the society is so structured that sannyasa is respected as the most important part in gaining this jnanam and therefore moksha. A person who's not really gained that jnanam and he knows he's going to die, at that time also people can take sannyasa. Apat is danger to life. What apat sannyasa? This apat sannyasa, suppose that whatever was the danger that they were seeing gets relieved, then this apat sannyasa can be ratified later. This happened to Śaṅkaracharya also. He was caught by a crocodile. And his mother was not allowing him to become sannyasi. He wanted to become sannyasi. And the mother was praying, help my son, save my son, And Śaṅkara said, if I take sannyasa, I'll be freed of this. Whether it's symbolic, I don't know. That crocodile may be samsara. I'm not sure. But that's how the story goes. And he took apat sannyasa. And was later ratified by his guru on the banks of the Narmada. Acharya was his first guru. Of Govindapadacharya. That's also possible. Unfortunately, there is a fourth type of sannyasi which still existent in this country, who only have sannyasa vesha. They have no sannyasa qualities. They're also there. And sometimes makes life difficult for people to understand sannyasa. And makes life difficult with the sannyasi because people tend to paint them all with the same brush. Now, in this text, Śaṅkara covers brahmacharya and grahastha ashrama in the first verse. Vedo nityam adhiyatam taduditam karma svanushthiyatam teneshasya vidhiyatam apachitihi kamye matistyajatam papogha paridhuyatam bhavasuke doshonusandhiyatam atmecha vyavasiyatam nijagrahat turnam samakarnyatam. Then in the verse 2 and 3, Śaṅkara talks about the other two stages, vanaprastha and sannyasa. Then verses 4 and 5 takes us to the level of saying what actually happens when one follows all this and what is the state when one reaches the state of a jnani. A beautiful 5 simple verses constructed very beautifully. You see the structure and the flow. Vanaja and Surya have chanted it so nicely. Flow is so beautiful. And the meanings are so intense, profound, that as we study, we will see this. There are many types of texts that we study. The real message is in Vedanta. The entire Veda is called Shruti. And the Vedanta portion is the one that gives us the knowledge that we are seeking. Paravidya. But in order to be able to get that, there's a whole bulk of the first portion of the Veda called Karma Kanda. Or much of it is covered in the first shloka itself, which is preparation, without which what Vedanta tells us we are not ready for accepting. But the entire Veda is called Shruti and is accepted as a pramana. A pramana is a means of knowledge. For the world of objects, we have the 5 pramanas given to us. The first, pratyaksha pramana, direct knowing, are the 5 senses. These senses look at objects outside and report. And that is analyzed and processed by the manas and the buddhi. But each of these 5 have very clear field of operation. None interferes with the other's operation. Eyes see form and color. Ears can only hear sound. Ears cannot be used to find color. Nose can smell and so on. Each has very distinct field of operation. But the key is all of these are external objects. They have operation only on external objects. These means of knowledge have to be operated by somebody. Who is going to operate them? Chakshush chakshuhu. Who is the eye behind the eye? Manaso manaha. Who is the mind behind the mind which analyzes all this? Because these senses cannot look back on the one who operates them. They can only look outside, paranchikani, and they see objects of the world. Shastra actually specifies this is only one of the 5 types of pramana. Pratyaksha pramana. Then you have something called sakshi pramana. When you're hungry, you know you're hungry. We don't use any of these 5 senses, but we know. That is called sakshi pramana. That's also pratyaksha pramana, directly understood knowledge. Then you have many other ways of doing it, like anumana. You'll see something, you have one data, but you conclude something else. You see fire, you conclude, or you see smoke, you conclude fire. Because that connection, concomitance is invariable. So infer fire, that inference is also a means of knowledge. But that inference also needs pratyaksha of something. Those 5 senses need to be used to get that. Otherwise, you can't infer. Or anumana. Again, if you have pratyaksha of something which is very similar to what you're trying to understand, using that as an drishtanta is also another means of knowledge, again depending on the senses only. Then you have arthapatti. Again, some data available to the senses more than one types of data, multiple iterations of inference, called arthapatti. And there's of course one called anupalabdhi. Again, depend on the five senses. I know there is no elephant in this room. At this time in this room, specifically. Absence. But all of these depend on the five senses. You can reduce it down to saying that only the five senses will give you a means of knowledge. These five senses are operated by whom? They cannot operate on their own. They are to be operated by you. How do these senses then, can they be used at all to know I? They are not available. Paranchikani. Antaratma. They do not look inwards. Therefore, we need another set of pramana, and that is called Shruti. Shruti is also accepted as a pramana. If you do not accept Shruti as a pramana, there's no way we can find out this. So one has to examine why Shruti should be taken as a pramana. Completely different subject. Then we have other texts we have in our scriptural library called Smriti. Lots of Smritis are there, which are based on the Shruti, but are dependent on for application in a specific period. May not be valid at other periods. This is one of the confusions that often comes up, because people look at Smriti and Purana, which are time specific, and say, oh, all your Vedas are not relevant today. Not true. Vedas have always been relevant. Shruti has always been relevant, will always remain relevant. What may not be directly applicable are Smritis and the stories that come from Puranas. So that also causes confusion. Then you have the two big texts called Itihasa, Ramayana and Mahabharata, which try to cover every situation in life one might ever encounter, and looks at how one can deal with that situation. Shruti Pramana, like I said, is the only Pramana. But Shruti Pramana, consisting of Veda and its end portion called Vedanta, are not very easy to understand. Therefore, you have a lot of other texts available to you. All texts after Shruti are based on Shruti, called Prakarana Grantha, which take the same message from the Shruti and open it out a little bit, at least one specific area, so we get it a little bit easy to understand. Then you go back and study the Shruti, it becomes clear. This particular text is also somewhat like that. The verse 4 and 5, which I did not cover till now, talk about what Shruti says. What is moksha? And verse 1, 2, and 3 will talk about how do you get ready for that. A beautifully done text. we will chant this once together, and then we'll start with the first verse next week. Can you put the chanting back on? Abutma?
Swami, just a moment. Swami, just a moment.
Okay.
Vedo
Nityamadhiyatam Aduditam Karma Swanushtiyatam
Tene Shasya
Vidhiyatam Apachitihi Mati Yatyam Paridhuyatam
Sukhe
Sandhiyatam
Vyavasiyatan Nijagrahat Tunam Vinirgamyatam Sangasatsu Vidhiyatam Bhagavato Bhaktirdradhadiyatam Shantyadi
Parichiyatam Tataram
Mashu Santyajyatam Sadvidvanupasyam Pratidinam Tatpadukase
Devyatam
Brahmaikaksharamatatam Shrutishiro Vakyam Samagarmyatam Vakyartascha Vicharyatam Shrutishira Samashiyatam Ustartat Suviramyatam Shrutimatastarko Sandeyatam Brahmaivasmi Vibhagyatam Maharvaparyatam Deheham Matirujyatam Buddhajane Vadav Parityatam Shuddhyadishcha Chikitsatam Pratidinam Bhikshaushadam Ujyatam Swadvannanaduyachyatam Vidivashat Praktena Santushyatam Shitoshnaदिभिषह्यतां न तु व्रता वाक्यं समुच्चार्यताम् औदासीन्यमभीक्ष्यतां जनकृपा नैष्ठोप्यमुत्सृज्यताम् एकान्ते सुखमास्यतां परतरे चेतः समाधीयताम् Purnatma susamikshyatam jagadidam tattvaditam drishyataam prakkarma pravilapyatam chitibalan napyuttarai slishyataam prarabdhan priha bhujyatam matapara brahmatmasthiyataam Om
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।